All right, keyboard solo. Who cares about a keyboard solo? Actually, it's my good friend Walter Fischbacher on keyboards, and I just got my tour schedule for the Czech Republic in September of 2024. So that would be fun. Going to the Czech Republic for 2 weeks at this point, touring around again, doing what we did last year, which was a ton of fun. And I'm looking forward to doing it again, even though it's a while away. And we can talk about actually I'm already a year away. I'm already thinking about my what I'm going to use on the gig, but we can talk about that too. So thanks for everyone for being here as always. Thanks to BV for always the last minute. Every morning I wake up on a Wednesday, I'm like, what am I going to talk about? Sometimes coming up with an idea for a live feed is really difficult. What do you want to talk about? And then you start thinking about these questions like, if I talk about this, that'd be cool. And then, that'd make a good regular video. So about every morning, every Wednesday morning in New York time, Keith Williams gets us a phone call and I go, what should I talk about today? So some of this was from Keith helping me out today, thinking about what to do for today. First thing, I see some comments in the chat about my my technique builder, the repeated blues rock repeated licks. That is on sale for 50% off. It's been doing really well. I really appreciate it, guys. I think you'll dig it if you want to work on building up your chops. I'm not talking shred stuff. I'm just talking about solid blues and blues rock chops, and blues rock goes into metal, goes into hard rock, goes into everything. Just building up your technique through repeated pentatonic ideas and how to pick properly, pick angle, all those sorts of things that were really important, that really changed my playing, because there's a lot of those ideas like, I should be able to do this and I can't do it. And then when I broke apart my playing, I figured out I was just doing it wrong. So, all right. So, okay, the year is not done. And of course, Jeff, you're doing your guitar of the year. Well, I'm not going to buy any more guitars because I have enough, and I'm trying to slow down a bit. Well, I've never been too crazy with it. So it's a new guitar for me, but it is not a new guitar in the market. And I think I wish I had some sort of like tension building music. You guys could probably guess. Anyone want to guess in the chat what guitar it will be? I actually bought 2 significant guitars this year, and it was a bit of a challenge between the two, but the one that I had the most fun with consistently, most sort of inspirational, and even a few of my friends were like, man, you're obviously having a great time with that guitar. And here we go. Dun, da, 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 da. The Yngwie Malmsteen Signature Stratocaster. I know it's not new on the market. It's been around for a long time, but I have never had one. And I have had more fun with this guitar, kind of going back to my roots in many ways. I'm going to turn my phone upside down because I keep on seeing chats, so I know it gets distracting. So I've always wanted one, but I thought, it's kind of silly, or it's got that scallop board. I'll never like it. I'll never play it. That's not my thing. All those justifications we can. And of course, it's not free. Fender did not help me get this guitar. I have no relationship with Fender other than I play Fenders primarily. So I saw this on Craigslist. I think I might have told this story. I saw it about a year or so ago, and I was thinking I'm going to jump on it. It was a very reasonable price. I was going to jump on it. And then the hot water heater in my basement decided the bottom gave out. So there went any kind of discretionary and non-discretionary income to fix my hot water heater so I could take a shower. So that pushed it off, and I was kind of bummed. I thought, all right. And then a few months ago, my mom passed away, which is obviously, some of you guys know, which is happens to all of us in a terrible. Anyway, so I was just flipping through Craigslist on the phone, and here was this guitar again. And I know it was the same exact one because he pointed out this little tiny ding right here. Same guitar. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do it. So I went, emailed the guy. The price was very reasonable, really, really reasonable. So I'm also a big proponent of used guitars for that reason. And Craigslist can be really good too. There's a lot of scams, but Craigslist can be cool because there's no tax, there's no shipping, there's no fees, all that stuff that you get on a Reverb. And so I got the Yngwie Malmsteen Stratocaster. And so here, let me talk about what's so fun about this thing. First of all, it sounds exactly the way I had hoped it would sound. So I got kind of like an Yngwie sort of sound dialed in. So what Yngwie has done with the pickups is I wouldn't touch anything in his guitars. Lots of times with guitars, you're like, oh, I think I need to do this to it or that to it, like change the pickups. This sounds exactly the way I wanted it to sound. I've got to tune down a half step, and I'm putting 9s on it. So I wanted to go the full thing. Now, Yngwie's got a mix set. I haven't gotten to those yet. I might try his set where it's sort of like 10s and an 8s on the top. I haven't gotten to that to try that, but I might. But so the half step down with a lighter gauge string, this is kind of a fun conversation too, and probably why I'm having so much fun with the guitar, is to play like him. Things became really apparent to me once I started messing around. So the string gauge, though I might try his set of strings, a lighter string gauge tuned down requires a really light touch. I have a pretty light touch to begin with, fortunately, from playing metal for all the years and sort of my background. And a light string, especially with these scallop frets, we'll talk about in a second, really... with the scallop and the vibrato suddenly came to, that's part of the sound that I grew up with, either he or Uli Jon Roth, all the metal guys. That big frets are one thing. I usually like 6100s or 6105s, usually 6105s, but on the DGT, which would be the number 2 guitar of the year, we can talk about number 2 in a minute. I always play big fret, tall frets, but a scallop is actually different. I usually thought that a scalloped fret would be sort of like playing a big fret. And it's not really. It's different. And when people ask me, like, oh, did it take a long time to get used to the guitar? And interestingly enough, no, not at all. It was pretty easy to start playing the thing. It requires a light left-hand touch. Chords can be a little more tricky. Yngwie doesn't really play that many chords live. Neither does Ritchie Blackmore. So it's an interesting kind of thing that it's easy to put him out of tune if you press too hard, because you got all that play. So I don't know if you can see, I don't have autofocus on, but those scallops are pretty deep. So when you put your finger on a fret, it doesn't come anywhere near the fingerboard, right? But you have all this room to push down, and then Yngwie doesn't push down. Most people don't, but you see how deep the scallop is. And what you can do is you get your finger in there, so there's next to no friction. So these are 6100s and a big, deep scallop. Now, I had the pleasure to try one of those Play Loud Yngwie guitars. It's on one of my videos that I had done over at Watchtower Guitars, and it was one of those master builts. And boy, did I want that guitar. It was great, but it was like one of 100 or 125. It was $14,000, and that's a no. That's a big no. But that one didn't have as deep scallop, so I think the production model has a deeper scallop to it. So that's been fun because it gets me into the sounds of that vibrato that I love. And sometimes trying to translate the vibrato that I grew up loving of Yngwie, which is one of my favorite aspects of his guitar playing, I can get on other guitars, but it's much more of a struggle with a 10-gauge string and a smaller fret, which 6105s are not small frets, but it's much smaller than having basically no fingerboard underneath there at all. So it's a scalloped fingerboard, so you're not even coming close to the wood. Now the lighter string and those two together gives you a lot of control over the note, right? So obviously I got a big distorted tone, all right? I'll switch up to a more bluesy tone in a minute. So getting that big, that vibrato is super easy. Because there's not a lot of friction. Yngwie also plays with a lot of distortion. If you watch the Rick Beato interviews with him, which I highly recommend you do, I think they're great. And the latest True Fire video that he put out, his instructional stuff is he's not great at explaining what he does because he doesn't really care. He just does what he does. But watch the Rick Beato interviews. I think it's a lot of fun because he talks just about guitar, and he comes off really great. I know I've met him a bunch of times when I was younger, and each time was, you know, he was young, and it was I figure out where he got his reputation from. He was very dismissive, but I was probably just a crazed teen at the time. So he seems to have mellowed quite a bit as he's gotten older. I think as everybody does. Okay, so let's just go through the sounds. I've got the heavy sound on. So these are his noiseless pickups, the YJM pickups. And that's the neck. And then it is set up for like the 5 position, but Yngwie is basically doing 1 and 3. His guitar's got this lower down. I don't even know if it's hooked up. I'm not even sure. But the bridge. So it's got that real bitey sound. And we get in trouble. I want to play a chord and I hit a little hard. I've not gigged with the guitar yet, simply because I play kind of heavily, a little bit loud when I'm playing live. So I got a feeling I would be out of tune a lot. But it'd be kind of fun to give it a shot. So let me see. Let's go to a bit of a bluesier sound. I really like the sound of the guitar. So let me just change my preset here. I'm on the fractal right now because sometimes it's just easier. So. That's some pretty cavernous reverb I got on there right now. Hold on a sec, guys. I did just put new strings on and tuned down a half step. So it's a thing for sure. So now I understand why Yngwie probably uses the lower strings, the heavier strings on the lower strings, because it will help the tuning quite a bit. But, so, did I just refer to the bridge position as 1 and 5? I don't know. This is 1. That's 5, I guess. I don't know. I just say neck and bridge. And then I say 2 and 4 and middle. So 2 and 4, I guess that would, I don't know. I know what I mean. I should probably have a better deal with that. So I think it's a great guitar overall. This one's not that heavy. I've seen some that are heavy. This one is 7 pounds, 9 ounces, or something like that. 7 pounds, 8 ounces, something like that. That's important to me, but I really do enjoy the guitar. So what it's made me do is to think about how light a touch I would need on a guitar. And what it also has shown me, and these are things that I forget. I know Keith and I did a conversation about this sort of thing a while ago. Keith Williams, who's on, is the string gauge, and I want to talk about string gauges and setups. So I normally play traditional strats. I like a 7 1/4 radius with tall frets and 10s. But certain styles of music or certain things that I grew up loving are very difficult to play, or you have to have so much technique to compensate for the curved fingerboard. Heavier strings, I can't go any heavier than 10s. I've got hand problems. I don't care about going any heavier than 10s. There is a sonic quality. There's been many videos that Rick did, and Keith and I talked about in the video, and Rick and Keith talked about, and ad infinitum, what difference a string gauge can make in your guitar tone, especially if you're playing with overdrive. So some of my favorite guitar players who are more on the shreddy end of things would use a lighter gauge string and often a flatter fingerboard. Not all of them. Surprisingly, when I found out about Yngwie, he plays a very high action. Rick pointed that out. I've heard him talk about that a number of times. And a friend of mine who's actually played a few of his guitars said, yeah, it's surprisingly high, which I would not have thought. I would have thought his action would have been fairly low. But there's a sound a thinner string can make. So if I compare this guitar, I know the pickups are totally different to a regular traditional Strat, which I'll kind of show you. There's things that are so much easier on this guitar to play due to the setup. So that's something you want to consider, that if you decide to dig up some stuff that you're working on when you're younger, you want to start shredding, and you're listening to guys who have a ton of technique and are doing a lot of legato, very often they are playing a lighter gauge string. So it's something to think about, because to me it makes a big difference. So something I may play sort of freely on this guitar, when I switch over to my 64 Strat, it's like, oh boy, that's kind of rough. The radius in this one is 9.5, I believe. So I don't really like a 12 radius on a Fender style guitar. It just feels really weird to me. That's all. So I don't know. All right. So now I'm tuned differently. So let's just switch over just to another Strat, and I'll go back to this. I'll go back. Let's go to this one. This is that Mike Landau custom shop that I put Ron Ellis pickups in and changed the pick guard. That's how it goes. Yeah, it sounds amazing. That's more the sound I'm used to. It's a little rounder, a little warmer. Very different sounding than that Strat, but that almost sounds like, what I love about Yngwie's tone is it's very forward, it's very cutting in a good way. I feel like that guitar does that. This sounds much more traditional. I am more of a traditionalist when it comes down to my guitar tones. I'm generally not a fan of like active pickups or anything like that. So I think it's a totally different sounding guitar, which is great. So if I go back to it, I know the tuning is going to be a difference, but you know. I just thought about it. I don't know if it's in tune. I need to get work on it. But this is a takeoff of like a 1968 Stratocaster, right? Yngwie's main guitar is a 1968 Strat. So I happen to have a 1968 Strat right here. That's probably not in tune. I got to get it worked on. It needs some refretting and everything. I didn't think about doing this ahead of time. But yeah, I just happen to have a 1968 Strat right here. Let's hear this one. Sounds great too. Just needs new frets and it needs some work. I'm going to send this off to my excellent friend Holger Noetzel, who I highly recommend, down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So, all right. So the fun thing about the guitar for me, and why I thought it was my favorite purchase of the year, is it got me back into things that inspired me about playing guitar when I was younger. You guys know me as a blues guy, primarily, and that's great. I'll take it. I love blues. I'm a huge blues fan. I know a lot about blues. I haven't been doing it in a long time, but I have an old National right over there. I played a lot of Delta blues for a long time. And I got really away from my heavy roots and fusion roots. Like, I grew up, obsessed with Scott Henderson, and Halsworth, and it started with Al Di Meola, I think, was really the big guy. And then, the rock guys, Michael Schenker, here we talk about all the time, and certainly Yngwie Malmsteen, Uli Roth, Warren DeMartini, at the time George Lynch. Some of those records don't hold up for me as much as they used to, tune-wise. I think there was a lot of great guitar playing and maybe not so great tunes, but on that first Rat record, there's some great tunes on that record, man. So I'm going to try something, and it's probably going to be sloppy, but it'll be fun, right? And I'll get a copyright, not strike, I don't think, but let's see what happens. I'll get demonetized. Who cares? It's just a live video. Let's see if I can do it. You guys want to hear something fun? Should I try to play along with something ridiculous? That 68 has a Trower vibe, bro. It totally does. Okay, let's see if I can get this going. This is from... I'm just going to do it. Why not? That was more fun in rehearsal. Got a little nervous there. That was some fun, taxing stuff. So I wanted to get back into playing like that. So things that were fun about doing that. Finding out that sometimes some of the picking and some of the vibrato is a lot easier. There's like now, one of the issues that I'm having, which is tough to get used to, is since the light strings, and I'm used to heavier strings, real easy to pull them off the side of the neck. So yeah. I had all this together right before the show, but I'll let it roll. It's really hard, but what it's gotten me back to doing is digging into some of the stuff that I grew up playing for no other reason, just because I'm having fun. I don't plan on putting out an Yngwie cover record or anything like that. I'm just having fun with it. And it's inspiring, and it reminded me, I always loved playing guitar. I do, but I find myself, I spread myself very thin at times. I'll dig into Alan Holdsworth or Scott Henderson, and then Robin Ford, and then Yngwie, and then Michael Schenker, and then I'll dig up David Lindley or Robert Johnson, and it's really fun, of course, because the guitar is the best. But at some point, I think you have to dig into the one thing, and I think all of our favorite players are the best at that one thing. So for me, it inspired me to dig into practicing a lot again, working on technique, working out issues that I had. And so now when I move over to some of the other guitars that are less specific, scallop-wise and all this kind of stuff, it's carrying over, which is really cool and really fun. Certain things aren't. I hadn't been playing this in a bit, and I thought I'd do this today, and so I'm pulling a string off the side of the neck. It's something you got to get used to when you play the guitar. That is a complaint that some people have about this guitar, because it is a wide, fender spacing, so... And you see Angus is online here. I could probably get this spacing a little narrower, and that would make it easier for me, because that high E string is very close to the edge. And if you're tuned down a half step and using a 9, I'm barely touching it, and it's doing that. So you can hear that, especially when I would vibrato in a way that I'm used to on a regular. Sometimes I'll vibrato downwards. I just pull the string off the side of the neck. All right. So... see, now what I wanted to do, and play that Yngwie thing for you, and I knew I was going to have mistakes and all, but I just wanted to show you guys. I don't care. I'm working on it. It's something that I'm having fun bringing back, and something I never really was not able to do when I was younger. And it was the advent of guys like Troy Grady in the past number of years, where I just kind of worked on my picking, and I was like, oh man, that's what I was doing wrong. Like, that's why I couldn't do it, because I felt like my left hand was pretty close. I could do other things really fast, but there was a number of things that I couldn't do, and some of these things were because I wasn't doing it right. Also, I didn't have the setup. I didn't have the same kind of tone. So if you notice especially on the TrueFire video, when Yngwie stops playing, he's got all this delay and tons of reverb. Not like he did when he was younger, where it was a much cleaner tone. When he was younger, he was a complete monster to listen to early stuff and how clean and precise it is. And that's got to be tough being, he's still great, but he's older than me, and having to keep that stuff going is not an easy thing to do. So, there's a certain level of tomfoolery I can throw on these things to make it work, and that would be a little bit of delay and a little bit of reverb. It goes a long way. So I don't profess to have the super chops, but it's been fun to dig back into them and work on them. All right, so let me see what you got. Let me see some questions, and we'll jump over there. Hold on. Can't believe I played that live for you guys, because I love you. All right. Let's see what we got here. All right, so thanks everybody's here. Let's go. Okay, Keith's here. Thomas Ross, Angus, I saw David Cromwell. BV, of course, thank you. And I have my technique course, my repeated blues rock licks, easy for me to say, at 50% off if you don't have it already. Please check it out. So Phil Jones saying, for the repeated licks course, for me, some of the licks are way harder than others. Oh, yeah. And all of them are really hard if you play them up to tempo. But the point is just play the licks slowly, and it doesn't matter. You can use them all the time. Mel Gibson, what's up? Ray Mears, Richard and Sarah, as always. David Anthony, what's going on, everyone? Michael Cope, yes, another Czech tour. Keith, yo. Check in tomorrow with Keith. He's doing a good show. He's on tomorrow live again. I'm not going to buy any more guitars. Jeff's nose gets longer. I don't want to buy any more guitars right now. I don't. Okay, let's see. Maybe some questions, everyone. Got questions? I'm jumping down here. Hold on. Blah, 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 blah. Love the sound of the 70s big head sock Strats. They do sound different. I really love them. Yeah. I agree. Bathe Me in Arpeggios, Jason Chadwick. Pretty funny. Black Star, yes. Who took over Jeff's guitar playing? Pretty funny. Hold on. Robin will tell you off. You know, he liked this kind of my playing. You should do more of that. I'm like, all right. Isn't guitar really about playing, having fun? If not, like, no bother. Absolutely. It should always be fun. Okay. Okay, Jeff, stuck at work, missed the live stream. Assuming the favorite guitar is the one you're holding, the Yngwie Malmsteen. Yes. Yeah, you can't listen to, just timing. You can't listen, you're just watching. Yeah, I know the Callahan has, if you watch a video that I did with Angus Clark, we talked about how he's modified guitars. So he's the man who knows everything about modifying a Stratocaster with thick bridge widths and how to get it done. So I might do that on this guitar just because it is, I like the sound of the lighter string, but that thing hanging off the side is really tough. All right, so we got a good question. How do you, it's David Cromwell, this is actually from the course as well. How do you angle your pick when hitting the strings? Is it possible to show us here? Yeah, let me turn off this delay at least. Yep. Okay, the pick angle is really huge. I'm playing something fast. I'm gonna keep on playing harmonic minor on this thing. So if I'm just playing something like even a scale, pick angle is going to be really important. Just even, this is stuff I'm thinking about with this guitar. I'm angling the pick to cut across the strings, to slice across the strings at like a 45-degree angle. If you could see how my screwdriver is right here. That's kind of the angle I'm using for the pick. And then also what I'm doing is I'm tilting the pick downwards a little bit. So it's tough to see, like, if I get a brighter pick. Hold on. I got it. Let's see if you guys could see this. So if I'm holding this pick along the string edge, yeesh, it's rough. Kind of like that. Oop, hold on. This is live. I don't know about that. So if it's something like this, so the pick is tilted this way, pitched, I should say, and then I'm tilting a little bit like that. If that makes sense. So it's following the side of my arm. You see how this is kind of following one thing. I talk about all this in the course too. It's very hard to see unless somebody comes over to your hand and goes boop, you know, and does it. It's hard to do in video. But I'm tilting the pick. The pick is facing upwards a little bit. And this is something I learned from Troy Grady, who I've had some emails with. He's going to come on and we're going to do a video on something about this. And he calls it an escape pick, and that's what really helped me a lot, where he's just picking and then does an upward pick to clear the strings. But that's the angle. Does that explain it better, David? It's hard to see, I know. I'm trying to look in the camera like that. Okay, so like this way. Can you guys see that all right? As opposed to playing, you know, parallel with the strings, you like just, that just doesn't work. But if I have that slight angle, and I'm also got this angle where the pick is tilting up towards my face a little bit. So hopefully that will help. That really helps a lot. Without that pick angle, Seven's going to do like a pentatonic scale. And if I don't angle the pick and I keep the pick sort of parallel with the strings, get kind of stuck up in those strings right there. If I angle it, goes right across the strings really easily. All right, so now we can talk about favorite guitar number 2. I got 2 guitars this year. Well, the red Strat, does that count? Yeah, I guess that counts too. Question over here. How do you keep from burying the tip of the pick into the strings and let the tiny amount of the pick stick out? How do you keep from burying the tip of the pick into the strings? Only let a tiny amount of pick stuck from your fingers, and then your fingers touch the string. Like I said, I do go into it in depth on the course. I'm not trying to not do that here because I know some of you guys have bought the course. I've got the angle. I choke up a little bit on the pick. Let me get a brighter pick. I use the black ice, which don't really show up great on camera because they're black, but just a little bit of the pick sticking out. Let me get my black ice against the guitar. So I'm always like this. There's just a little bit of that pick sticking out over my thumb, like that. And then if I want to, I can choke up a little bit on the pick. And when I play rhythm guitar, more rhythms, I just kind of move the pick a little bit with my fingers and bring it out a bit. That's the best way I can describe it, is it just kind of poking out over the top of my thumb like that. Okay. Hopefully that helps. And I do go into it in depth on that course too. Okay, so guitar number 2. That was my favorite guitar of the year. It's probably the sexiest guitar of the year. I think this is this year. Can't remember. I think, yeah, I got it at the beginning of the year. This one, pretty sure. So Wood Library DGT Fancy Pants guitar. Got it over at Watchtower Guitars. I got it used. So I got a really good deal on a guitar that was basically brand new. And I just changed pickups on it. So I'm really, really digging it now. Not that I wasn't before. And people are like, oh, you changed pickups on a Grissom? Yeah, I put in Ron Ellis pickups. Ron sent me a set of pickups. So I changed the pickups and I changed the wiring. The typical DGT has a volume here for your bridge, and this is a volume for the neck, and that's a tone and 2 push pulls. I made it just a master volume. I made it like a Strat. So it's a master volume. This is a tone knob for the neck, and this is a tone knob for the bridge. No push pulls. And it feels, it works better for me. And I texted Dave and I said, I fixed your guitar for you, man. So really great guitar. And people often, slag PRS. Now, I do work with PRS. And some of you guys may know, I bought this one with my own money, though. Because I love their guitars, but I hadn't found one that really got me going. That I was like, man, they're all great. But I didn't find the one that I loved. And I did a video on it. I played this one. I was like, wait, this guitar is really, really good. So I'm really loving it now. I prefer it now with the new pickups and the new wiring. The DGT is my favorite PRS they make, and the SCs are amazing. But there's just something about this one, besides it, having this really beautiful one-piece top that looks great on camera. Always a consideration when you do YouTube videos. This one is just a spectacular guitar. I put in the new pickups. You're going to see it a lot more lately. I think one of the things I didn't love about it, and this is, spoken to David about it. It's very particular to his kind of playing, where we talked about it, where he's singing on his gig, so he just turns on the volume, and he has treble bleeds. And so for the first time, the treble bleeds, I don't love them in guitars. I feel like they thin out the guitar tone too much. But that being said, I almost always have a buffer on the floor. Okay, so any of you that pedal show people know that. I believe Mick talks about this a lot. And Mike Landau has spoken about it as well. I have some kind of buffered input on the floor. So whether it's a line buffer, right now I've got the Vertex Boost off right now, so I just have a buffer going in, even to the Fractal, or anytime I'm playing through an amp. If it's a really short cable, it's not a big deal. But so when I turn down the volume, the brightness stays there. So what happens with me, and it's on all my guitars, I didn't change anything on the Yngwie. I don't know what's going on. It just sounded right the way it was. So if I turn down the volume and you have a treble bleed on, things can get very thin to my ear. And I very rarely play guitar with the volume on 10. I mean, if maybe for full-on solo, but everything else is really, I always roll the volume back a little bit, even on a Strat, because it just takes off a hair of that top end and it just warms up the guitar a lot. The downside of that is if you don't have a buffer on the floor, it can often get too dark, and then you're not, then you're losing some stuff. So it's really one of those things that you do have to experiment with the way you play. Like if I just were going guitar into an amp, it's going to be, if it's a Les Paul, it's going to be 50s wiring. That helps a lot with that, blah, blah, blah. But it gets pretty nitpicky. But that was the thing I didn't always love about the guitar. Now that I've changed out the pickups, I really, really love it. This is Ray Mears. I have a tendency to vibrato like a violinist. Guitar teacher, is it wrong? As a guitar, is it wrong? What's your opinion? I started playing classical guitar and failed guitarist. Well, I'm assuming you're talking about a violinist when he's doing kind of like a circular sort of thing, or kind of moving back and forth. It can work on guitar, and I do that sometimes, you know. But if you're really honest, the only note on that, when I'm doing this, that's really kind of getting any real vibrato, just moving my finger back and forth, is the high string. Watch. Right, so even if one string is getting some of the vibrato, see? But, so it's the high string is the only one that's vibratoing. I discovered that one time when I was doing a course. I'm like, and all the notes are ringing out, and I played them individually. I'm like, no, they aren't. Actually, it's only one note that's ringing out, but that's enough, okay? That's enough to get the cool sound of the vibrato. Thank you, my knees hurt. Quartz purchased. Thank you so much, thank you. All right, so the circular vibrato can be cool for a very subtle vibrato. But if you want, right, bigger, harmonic minor again, that's not going to do it. So it's great for subtle vibrato, and I do it myself. Right? It's great. Right, that's not it. But, right, but then if I go up and down, that's really going to be the way that does it. So I do use that vibrato for something very subtle. That's subtle. The higher the string, seems to be more effective. See? But now, if you're doing circular, a lot of people think they're doing circular, but they're actually kind of bending the string as they do that. They are moving the string. So watch your string. If it's moving, then it's doing something, because the string has to move. Unless your frets are really tall and you're actually pushing into the guitar, which it's not really quite the thing. So for me, right? So I really like that kind of vibrato a bit more, but it's a mixture of all of them that works. And then the bar, of course, really loud. There we go. So some other stuff above here. Hopefully that helped out, Ray. So we got. I'm not going to get. Okay, this is BV. All those new guitars that you're not going to buy. Have you tried the Landau Koma? I have not tried the Koma yet. So I've got two Mike Landau guitars, and honestly, I'm a huge fan of Mike Landau's, but that's not why I got them. Actually, it's a little bit annoying that they're his because people often say, "Ooh, you a big Landau fan?" Like, no, we have the same taste in guitars. Fenders, big frets, and a traditional radius. And Fender often does not do that. Fender, a lot of their ones are 9.5, and that's fine. Or 9.5, right? Yeah, 9.5 is radius, and I like 9.5 radius on a Strat a lot, but I prefer 7.25 ultimately, which makes other things more difficult. But just in my hands, I prefer it. The Mike Landau models have 7.25, and they come with 6105 frets. So those are the two things that I always refret my guitars with 6105s. And I like the curved neck. Now, the Koma guitar, you guys might know, where you watch the video that Mike Landau plays really, really well. He's telling a story about the guitar. The only reason why I would like one if someone wants to give me one, sure. But they're so distinctively his, and they're quirky, right? That red and with the route and the whole thing, that at the end of the day, it's just another Strat. I know he's got the wide range pickup. That's very much him, and it's this one is super him too, because only a handful of these made. And this one I also changed the pickups on from the original ones, which I like a little bit, which I like better. So I try to avoid people's signature models. I got a DGT, but it's just, once again, David knows what sounds great on a guitar. He's got great guitars. His always sound great, and he really made a smart guitar with that. So love that guitar. So back to the old Yngwie. Any questions on this? So there's lots. I think we're living in the golden age of gear for guitar. It's crazy. I mean, I'm playing through a Fractal, and that sounds amazing. There's so many great things out there. Inexpensive guitars, what is an inexpensive guitar? A good inexpensive guitar. Keith and I have talked about this on the live feeds. Like, if we talk about, what is inexpensive, we talk about the DGT SEs or any of the SE PRSs. They're just great. Some of the made in Mexico Stratocaster, the less expensive ones, are really awesome. So we're in a really good point in time, because the equivalent of the guitars price-wise, when I was a kid, were terrible. Like Area Pro 2s, they weren't really great. Because they were just not, they didn't have the technology at this point, How about those John Petrucci guitars? I've played them. They're great. They're really, really cool. They're really comfortable to play. Those are good guitars. Not my thing. A little too more pointy modern, I've considered a DGT SE, but I'm not sure what the treble bleed is and why it's somewhat unique to the model. Okay, once again, a treble bleed, generally speaking, when you turn your volume down on a guitar with no treble bleed, it's just a circuit that, BB, you could probably help me more. It keeps your high end there. I'm trying to remember what it does. Anyway, without it, the guitar can get a bit muffled when you turn your volume down. What a treble bleed does is it keeps the guitar brighter as you turn the volume down. And there's all sorts of combos of caps and resistors that you can put on there to dial it into where you like it just perfectly. So I don't think it's definitely not a reason not to get something like an SE, because first of all, it's super easy to fix if you don't love it. And it gets to be very quirk sniffy. This is through years and years and years. The guitar as it is amazing. I loved the DGT prior to me kind of tweaking with it, but I just was playing it enough, and the way I play guitar, I don't use treble bleeds on all my guitars, so it felt different. It didn't react the way I wanted the guitar to, and I knew it was a great guitar. it just didn't react to my playing, which has been suited to the treble bleed thing. So treble bleed, it's a bit of a misnomer, right? I think so. Yeah, it's more like a bass bleed, like you're taking up some of the bass and allowing more of the treble through. I don't know. I just know what it does. I just know what it sounds like. And there are some combos of those things that some people really like. If you go to a great guitar tech, they're like, oh, I like these two caps and resistors, and they work it out. But for my playing, I'm so used to not having one. When I have a guitar that has that, I'm like, what's going on? It should get darker. And it doesn't. So that's what they are. I would definitely not have it steer you away from any guitar that you might like, because it's the simplest. If you open up the guitar and you go snip, boom, your treble bleeds out. It's super easy, and I would never stop that from getting a guitar that I love. And the DGT SEs are really, really great. It's really great. Great guitar, and I'm just not getting paid to say that. Everyone I've played, I'm like, that's a really good guitar. I know David's very, very happy with them, because obviously it was a big deal for him to have his name on a guitar that he wanted to make sure that he was just as happy with that guitar as he was with the core models or the upper level models. Okay, so Chris just asked, I've just kept this guitar stock. This is the stock Duncan Yngwie pickups, because to me they immediately sound like Yngwie. You plug it in, it sounds like Yngwie. Does it sound like a Strat? No, kinda. It sounds like an Yngwie guitar, right? So it's a little more bright. I like this is just a bluesy sound. That's strings. So, just to point out, you see I kind of fudged some stuff or made a few mistakes simply because I am tuned down to half step and got really light strings on. So things that would be normal for me, right? So I might give Angus a buzz later and figure out what I can do to bring these strings in a little bit. So that would hold me back from playing this guitar on a gig. As you could see when I played the live Black Star sort of thing, you could see that some of the string, I was pulling the strings off the side of the neck. When I was looking at also in Sweetwater, people were talking about the guitar. They got the reviews, and a lot of people said the same thing. I'm pulling my string off the side of the neck. What's wrong with the guitar? And it's exactly the way Yngwie wants it. Just the way he plays it. I'm sure the high action might make that more difficult, but I find even when I'm playing something sort of simple that I would never make that mistake. But it's so easy right now with this right here. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's particularly close, but when you're talking like a millimeter, that's a huge difference in your hands and how it goes across the fingerboard from here to there. It makes a very big difference. So also the way the guitar is fretted, looks pretty good. If you have a narrower fingerboard, like wider spacing, I like to make sure my frets aren't too sloped on the side because it's easy to pull them off. So someone like Michael Tuttle, who does my guitars as well, or Holger, any grid repairment guy, that's something to make sure that they do. Really curved fret ends might feel good, but sometimes I just pull the string off the side of the neck. How do you approach learning a piece like the one you just played, the Yngwie Malmsteen one? Do you approach it like a project, like play nothing else for 6 months? Yeah, especially if you're talking about, that's a great question. Something as technically demanding as that, which is really way pushing the edge of my technique. Even though when I was younger, I had better fast technique. Because I just was more into it. I think I have better overall guitar technique right now. I can play much more gracefully and musically now. When I was younger, I listened back to some of those recordings of my old band. I'm like, damn, I could really shred back then. But to me, it was pretty two-dimensional at the point in time, as hopefully I feel like I'm more of a three-dimensional player now. But yes, I will, especially if something's technically demanding like that, you have to stay on it. and I have to be very careful with my hands because I've had some injuries in the past. And if I throw myself into practicing techniques super heavily, I can hurt my hands. So just that thrown out there that I take it in groups, and I'll take a section at a time. I'll just learn. And the Yngwie tune, I just want to get this thing, yeah, which is freaking hard. Yeah. Right? Just super slow, start working up the speed on it. And I really concentrate on both hands, like what's going on. Or even slower. Yeah. That's a tough one because you change the pattern up. This isn't that hard. Same pattern, a little different, so I have to work on that. And it sounds like I'm giving excuses. I just decided to play that guy for you guys for fun because I thought, well, let me see if I can do it. I'm going to put it on a video. I did record a better version of me playing that on a upcoming Strat video I have coming out. And I played it better because I was more on top of the game of it. I was working on it. So I try to do the same, try to do what I just told you. Just take a section and work through it. Now, there's other things, if you talk about someone like Yngwie in particular, where I don't have the patience or the time or the interest to get all of it together. So there's some really insanely fast lines. I'm like, I wish I could do that. I just I don't want to give it the time that it requires for me to do that thing that's not really ultimately my thing. Does that make sense? So sometimes, Yngwie's spectacular. Any great guitar player, especially if there's something more technique involved, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of hard work. So I put in a lot of time to get some of these chops back. Fell really into it for a few months. And I'm just starting to come out of it a little bit because as much as I love playing that kind of guitar, I really do, I get bored. I find it to be a little, one-dimensional for me. So as much as I love Yngwie's first few records, first record in particular, the Alcatraz record and the first 2 or 3 records. After that, for me, I just lose some interest with it. And it's with anybody who is very more technique based. I'm trying to dance around the bush. I'm not really. I just love guys who mix it up a bit more harmonically and musically. So to build up that kind of technique and really work hard on it would just be just for my own fun, or maybe to do a cool YouTube video and people go, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Okay, so you have to decide. So I was working on Now Your Ships Are Burned because it's one of those solos I wanted to learn when I was younger. I just started working on it. I'm like, what am I doing? This is just stupid. It's so difficult to play. It's so amazing. It's him at the absolute peak of his game. It's crazy technique. You got to specialize in that stuff to do that. So I just had that moment again of going, I don't want to do this anymore. Cliffs of Dover is a hard one to learn. Exactly, So you get that intro. It's really cool. That to me would have more connection to what it is that I would play, how I play now, as opposed to Yngwie shredding stuff. I just enjoy doing it. Does that make sense? Sometimes you got to, how many hours do I have in a day? I'm not interested in sounding like anyone else. I like learning other people's material to improve my game all around. And plus, some of this was for me to, I said after my mom passed away, I just threw myself into practicing, which is always a wonderful thing to have the music, have music to do that. So for me, I just had myself head into learning Yngwie stuff or getting my technique together after buying the guitar. So back to the initial thing, it was the best purchase of the year for me because it got me back into roots. It really got me into practicing things that I had not done in a long time. I just had a great time with it. It's just been really inspiring and a ton of fun. If you cut one of my, I'm going to do it. I threw it on Instagram, but I'm going to do a video on, I learned Sails of Charon by the Scorpions and Uli Roth. And that's going to be a video coming up soon talking about that tune. And so I went back in time and said, okay, what what are some of those key solos that I always wish I could learn? And when I was maybe younger, I don't think I knew how to practice as well. So this is still on to your question, I think, on how do you get this stuff together? I was really more scattershot about a lot of things that I practiced, and it turned out fine, of course. But when I wanted to learn Sails of Charon, that old Uli Roth solo, which is brilliant and really influential for me, I felt that, okay, I'm going to learn this thing note for note. I'm going to learn how to play this stupid solo. And so I'd spent, I don't know, a good week working on it. I'm not going to play it for you right now because I haven't played it in a bit. I could do sections of it, but it was just the real focus on that thing. But what I can see, though, as having worked through that song and that solo, just for the gratification of knowing the solo that I've always wanted to know, and a personal goal in working on my technique, is my technique has gotten better on my guitar playing, my regular guitar playing. So it carries over. Do I want to go further into people? Like I said, you have to decide that for yourself. Like, you want to be realistic. So if you want to learn how to play Eruption, which is great, right? But it's going to take a lot of time. And then at the end of the day, you've learned how to play Eruption. Is it going to translate into anything else you do? Is it just a personal goal, like I said, Sails of Charon or some of this Yngwie stuff was? That was the goal for me, was just to throw myself into something that I loved as a kid, kind of trying to prove to myself I could do it. And it was a good point in time emotionally for me to dig into just practicing and not expect anything other than that. And that's one of the beautiful things about practicing technique for me, is that it's very meditative. You just start working on something and you just kind of sit there and try to get that line, and you're working on your picking, working on your arpeggios, and it starts to come together. And it's satisfying because it's just work, and it's fun work. And I found that was a really good point for me to start doing that. So this guitar brought that out, which has been fun. I love the scallop board. I would love to have a scallop board. Maybe I'll scallop the old 64 Strat. I've thought about, having Michael Tuttle or Fender or getting another one of these guitars and just sort of string this one up with 10s and see what happens, see if I like it. I don't know. So that could be fun because I do like the feel of a scallop board. It's cool. It's totally cool. Any other thoughts or questions or? Also, when you're practicing something fast, Surfer B. Speed is still a problem for me. I'm not looking to be a shredder, but I still struggle with it. Yeah. I have a course out. I'm joking, but not really. On the repeated blues rock licks, that was a problem for me as well. I think when we say we want to work on our technique, and I don't care to be a shredder, and I know I have some of those chops. I do, because I grew up with that and I love it. But I don't consider myself a shredder, and especially by today's standards, when you have, insert ridiculous 13-year-old kid on YouTube right here or Instagram, right? The technique at this point is off the charts. Way more young kids have technique that I can't even imagine at this point, because that's the way guitars evolved. So that's cool. But I think what you're asking about is there's the idea of having solid technique and being able to play things under your fingers with a certain amount of dexterity. And it all comes back down to tension and release. So if you're playing slower and more tastefully, which I hate that term because there are fast, tasteful players, and then you play something more fast, it's the juxtaposition between the fast and the slow. So you don't have to shred. So what I'm hearing or what I'm projecting, because this is the way I was, it's just when I heard someone like, talk about Michael Schenker, tons of technique, but not like Yngwie technique, but just technique where he plays, it's always clean. It's got some really fast stuff that he's clearly worked on, and it's fluid and it just comes out. Angus Young, another perfect example. Like, does Angus Young have great technique? Hell yeah, for me he does. Does he have shred technique? No, but when you hear him play, it always sounds great. He plays something faster. It sounds so much more fast compared to the other stuff that he was playing prior to it. So I think that's the kind of thing. So I don't have a great interest in being a shredder. And a friend of mine said it once best when I was talking about, like, say, Alan Holdsworth. And I hear guys who are coming from that sort of school of playing nowadays. I was saying to my friend, man, I just wish I could do that. He goes, no, you don't. I'm like, well, yeah, you wish you want to, but if you're smart enough, and I sound like Al Franken, you're smart enough, and into guitar enough that if you really wanted to do that, you would have been working on that forever. And it's completely true. And that's something to think about too. Like, we all want to be able to do things we can't do. I want to play jazz like Pat Metheny or John Scofield, and I want to play blues like Matt Schofield or Robin Ford, and I want to shred like Yngwie, and I want to play, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be able to do all of it. So it's just important to realize that you can't do all of it, and it's okay to not do all of it, because at the level that I want to do these things, I know how much time those things would take and how much commitment and past life commitment. So to my point of being able to shred like Alan Holdsworth, I love Alan Holdsworth. I've been working on some Scott Henderson stuff. Scott Henderson's playing is amazing. Just trying to get back into some of these things that I let kind of slide over the years. And with a different mindset, like, okay, he's got more technique than I'll ever have. I don't want to play like that. It's not exactly what I want in my head. I just want to get better at being me. And when I turn on those chops, I would like to be able to have stronger technique, if that's what it comes down to, you know. I would be happy to play blues just like this guy, Jeff, I know. Look, I think I'm a pretty good blues guitar player. Sure, I worked really hard at it. But I definitely more of a rock guy, ultimately. So yeah, I'm not knocking my abilities. I'm just saying, when you're on a stage and you're playing next to someone like Robin Ford, you know, you figure out, you go, geez, this is exactly where I, want to go. Hey, Alex Farron is on here. Good to finally catch one of the live streams. Everybody go check out Alex's page. Alex, can you put your link to your page? He's a great guitar player. We've not met. Only kind of talked via Instagram. Great guitar player. Posts really high quality stuff. Just really great. So go check him out. Go over to his website and, follow him and all that stuff. Really great player. We did a thing recently together with Adam Levy. It was me. Adam Levy asked me to play on something with Alex and Joey Landreth and Rich Hinman and Jack Roush. So it's fun. We played on this tune, which was completely a different genre for me altogether. It was sort of like this slow R&B thing. So if you go over to Adam Levy's page, good friend of mine, and I was asked him to play on it. So then I sent him a heavy track. I'm like, hey, you play on this now. You got to kind of a kick out of that. So, all right. Did you hear that someone was eventually had to be escorted out of Pat's concerts for heckling him throughout the first set? People are monsters. I think that's part of that YouTube thing where people feel like they're a part of the show. When I was at Rick Beato's show, people were just yelling stuff out. And certain times I'm like, people, this is not your show. It's Rick's show. It was time for questions in the past. This isn't time for questions, You're not a part of this show. Which is kind of a funny thing. Comedians deal with that all the time. Okay. So yes, I also did get a Flying V this year, which I also am really having a great time with. So let's talk about some of that stuff, as I've discussed many times. I trade guitars all the time, and I buy used primarily, or I sell stuff. Because if something's not getting a lot of play, I'll get rid of it or trade something for the other stuff. It's what I do for a living, so I have no problem about owning a bunch of guitars. But, if something's been sitting around for a year and I'm not playing it, which is kind of a good position to be in, I just get rid of it. I just, I can always get another one. Especially, you can always get another one. There's certain guitars that will never leave my possession, the ones that you really, 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 I attached to. Like my 64, that's never going to go anywhere. Well, you never say never. You could find like the the 54 Strat of your dreams and go, all right, I'm doing it. So nothing is forever, but that, my historic makeover, my old Telly, not Telly, my old, the vintage stuff. Yeah, I would keep that. I got that old gold top that was Robin's. You guys know this one. Hold on. The 53. So that's not going anywhere. One of the greatest guitars I've ever played, so that's not going anywhere. But other than some of these things that you've just kind of spent your life getting to build up to, guitars for me, like they can be really inspiring. You can get too deep into getting too many guitars. I've got two Les Pauls, one with humbuckers, one with single coils. I'm cool. I don't need 5 Les Pauls. Love Les Pauls. I don't need more. I need my favorite Strat. And then there's the stuff that I want to bring on the road. I'm not going to really bring a lot of vintage guitars too much on the road, just because for the obvious reasons. So I'll have something like that Black Landau Strat or my Tuttle, that stuff that will go on the road with me, because if something happens to it, locally I'll play the vintage stuff or in the States, but if I have to, anything ever has to go into a hold in a flight, I'm not putting a vintage guitar in there because I just don't want to deal with that. There's no reason for that. Hey Lyle, what's up? I love your channel too, man. Thanks for watching my channel. I appreciate it. Everybody go check out Lyle's channel. Honest discussions about amplifiers. Brutally honest in the best way, which is really kind of killer. All right, any other questions, guys? I've been on for a little bit. I got to go walk my dog soon. I go see my friend Dave Hill. You guys know the comedian Dave Hill? Plays guitar. Check out Dave Hill. He's doing a book signing tonight. I'm going to run over and see him. Man, that gold top is ridiculous. Yeah, it is. I think the strings are a little old. I had to change the pot in it because the original one just kind of died. So, it's in tune, okay. Takes a minute for me to get used to because it does play very differently. Okay, so the action's a little higher on this. And, it has this glazier bridge. So this generally I'm pretty cool switching from one guitar to another, except from going from 9s tuned down a half step and English Strat to this. This guitar I do have to play for a little bit before I go, okay, I'm back in the groove, because it's old and it does feel definitely different than my regular Les Paul in terms of just picking up like regular Les Paul, the makeover. It's just right away I'm good. This one takes me a minute because the action's a little higher, but it plays and sounds great, and it is what it is. So that's what it is, and it's awesome. You're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you. Yeah, I couldn't remember the Al Franken quote from Saturday Night Live. Stuart Smalley. Chris Butler, I talked to your friend Rob Bailey while we were at a meetup. We had a band together. No, we didn't have a band together. We just went to college together. So we never had a band together. We just known Rob Bailey since college. This is from Lyle. I can make you spend money, my friends. Steve Selvage in Hold Steady has a Strat with Lawler wide ranges and it burns in the middle neck. Oh, man. Yeah, I just, the wide ranges I'm sure sound great. hold on to this one. I know the wide ranges sound great. It never ends, man. It never ends. I do want to try that because, if Michael Landau likes it, then it's going to be sounding good. I guess got the butter machine pedal. I'm getting a pedal board built. For once, I'm finally getting a real pedal board built. With my friends over at 30th Street Guitars, so I'm going to have a video on that, on the build, and Mono is getting involved. They're sending me the case and the power supply, so that's pretty cool. All right, I think we're good, right? So thanks for everybody for hanging out. Watch me play my Yngwie Malmsteen Stratocaster, my favorite purchase of the year, just for pure out fun. And inspiration was the biggest thing. The inspiration of the guitar was my biggest thing about it. Right? All right, guys. Thanks so much. Everybody who's here. I'll see you soon. And thanks for everybody picking up the courses. Thanks to BV, of course, always helping out, and I appreciate it. Always last minute with me. I have the Technique course on sale, 50% off. If you dig it, please pick it up. Helps out the channel. Hit the like and subscribe button. I definitely have some new merch down there. I'll just show you the merch real fast. I do it. Hold on. Is this it? No, that's some regular t-shirt. There it is. I got the new merch. And there's mugs. There you go. Brooklyn Blues, Jeff McElroy. So they can get that down below. I appreciate it. This is the standard Yngwie, not the custom shop. See, for me, I don't want this enough. The custom shop's a ton of money, and for me, it's not going to be an everyday guitar. This is just a fun, inspirational guitar, not an everyday one. So to drop that kind of money on a whimmy kind of thing, it's different. All right, guys, I'll see you all soon, and take it easy. Thanks. Bye.